world knows what the United States did to Venezuela is an act of war. It's an act of aggression. It's a serious violation of international law and a complete violation of the United Nations Charter. It's a complete violation of the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Venezuela as a sovereign country. In that sense, you also need to ask, what exactly is the United States about to do? I think what the United States under President Trump really cares about is to plunder the largest oil reserve in Venezuela and try to dominate above the people of Venezuela and try to subjugate the country of Venezuela to the dominance of the United States. Now, this is really not the bright spot of the United States. And this is really calling back for the rule of the jungle. This is the powerful country dominating above weaker nations. And I don't think this will reflect well on the United States as a leading country in the world.
Professor, President Trump authorized this attack without congressional approval. What legal and political challenges could he face domestically?
Well, I think it depends on what will evolve in the coming few days and weeks. I suspect that the people in Venezuela and in South America, as well as throughout Latin America, and possibly also in other countries, including the Caribbean and elsewhere in the world, will rise up in indignation and condemn what the United States did in violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Venezuela. It also very much depends on what eventually domestically will evolve in the coming few days and weeks in Venezuela, and how the United Nations Security Council, which has been requested by the Foreign Ministry of Venezuela for an immediate consultation about what the United States did to Venezuela on local time, January the 3rd. So I think a lot is in the air right now. And for the people in the United States, I don't think they will take actions firmly against what President Trump and his government did to Venezuela, because they were told that the action was based on the fight against drug, for example, exported by Venezuela to the United States. And the United States actually has failed to come up with any firm indication or evidence incriminating President Maduro himself or the Venezuela government, etc. It reminds people of many things the United States had done over the past decades or even past several hundred years in dealing with the native Indian tribes, for example, in dealing with other countries in the world, and in launching one war after another against so many other countries in the world. And in this particular case, I don't think the United States has produced any real evidence incriminating President Maduro and the government of Venezuela or the whole country of Venezuela. And what exactly they are driving at, in my best judgment, is to create a situation where regime change will happen in Venezuela in the coming few weeks or months, and eventually the United States will plunder the oil reserve in Venezuela and force Venezuela to step in tune with the United States rather than continuing to follow its own independent foreign policy as well as domestic economic policy.
Professor, in terms of what could happen next, of course, big questions over the domestic situation in Venezuela and, of course, in the wider Latin America region. What are the most likely scenarios are we looking at here? Power vacuum, civil unrest, a power struggle within Venezuela? And what will the situation depend on? For example, reactions from the international community. What is left for the international community to do?
Well, several things. First of all, for Venezuela, I believe the Venezuelan government still survives intact, and the opposition leaders, especially those supported by the United States, may really raise hell in the coming days and weeks, try to destabilize the situation in Venezuela. The United States probably has already prepared a short list of proxies which they can unleash momentum in Venezuela with the aim of destabilizing the country, eventually leading to color revolution and regime change, so that eventually the United States can exercise dominance above Venezuela and plunder the oil reserve of Venezuela. It very much depends on how the current government in Venezuela can pull itself out in a coherent way to fight against this very blatant aggression of the United States, and how to stabilize the situation inside Venezuela. That's number one. Now, for many countries in Latin America, especially neighboring countries of Venezuela, they definitely feel very much indignant about such violations of the UN Charter, and they want to rise up to protest against such blatant aggression. But how much they can do depends on, for example, how the United States will deal with such protests, and how other countries in other parts of the world will follow suit. Now, what the United Nations will do the coming days is to summon immediate session of the Security Council. But the United States has a veto power, so I don't think the United Security Council have a very positive role to play for this particular situation. It's very unfortunate